Advice that says nothing. Give him the eye of the tiger, bro! That was Teofimo Lopez's dad screaming at his son from the corner during a world title fight against Shakur Stevenson in 2025.
You gotta hit him, bro!
Some of the worst advice in boxing isn't wrong, it's just useless. In the Teofimo versus Shakur fight, Stevenson had been controlling the fight for multiple rounds. Lopez Sr. watched all of it from the corner and still had nothing useful to say. What happened to your power, bro? Just punch him! Just knock this guy out already! That was the whole game plan. None of it addressed where Teofimo was getting hit, why his output wasn't landing, or what Stevenson was doing to shut him down. Lopez Sr. had done the same thing 5 years earlier, when Teofimo fought Vasily Lomachenko. Lomachenko was working angles, controlling distance. He barely landed anything through the first 7 rounds, but he was timing Teofimo, reading his patterns, and building toward a takeover. From round 8 onward, he came on strong and started putting rounds together. Between rounds, Lopez Sr.'s answer was still use your power, instead of addressing the footwork or the angles. Bad game plan. Pernell Whitaker was one of the slickest boxers who ever lived. And against Julio Cesar Chavez in 1993, his corner had one instruction: box and move. For the first half of the fight, that worked. Whitaker was making Chavez miss, controlling distance, and winning rounds on pure technique. Then Chavez started closing the gap. He shortened his steps, cut off the ring more deliberately, and started timing Whitaker on the way out of his own combinations. The punches that were missing in the early rounds started finding a home. Whitaker's corner never adjusted. They kept telling him to do the same thing while Chavez was physically taking it away from him. There was no answer for the pressure. No instruction to clinch more, work the body, or change the rhythm. Just the same game plan on a loop while Chavez kept coming. James Kirkland's corner made the same mistake against Alfredo Angulo in 2011, except they had even less to offer. Angulo came forward every round without pause, and Kirkland, under Ann Wolfe, had no tactical answer for it. The corner let him fight at a pace that burned enormous energy in both directions, with no instruction on how to manage the pressure over a full fight. Kirkland gassed badly in the middle rounds, and his output collapsed, but he still had enough left to stop Angulo by TKO in round 6. A fighter with genuine knockout power and real physical tools nearly got beaten by a game plan that never existed in the first place, and only survived because his punch resistance and finishing instinct carried him through when his conditioning couldn't. Use up the gas tank. Arturo Gatti was built for war. His entire identity as a fighter was volume, heart, and the willingness to take punishment and keep throwing. Against Mickey Ward in 2002, that approach nearly cost him the fight. Gatti came out throwing at a pace he couldn't sustain, and by the middle rounds, he was visibly fading. His corner never told him to slow down, conserve energy, or pick his spots. They kept pushing output, while Ward was getting stronger and Gatti was running on empty. It wasn't just that one fight. Across his career, Gotti's corner philosophy was almost always the same: throw more. It made him one of the most exciting fighters of his generation, and a fan favorite for his entire career. It also left him physically empty in the late rounds of fight after fight. The same traits that packed arenas and produced highlight reels consistently put him in danger when the championship rounds arrived and his body had nothing left. The pattern was predictable enough that opponents could game plan around it. Get to the middle rounds, let Gatti burn himself out, and take over when his output dropped. Ward understood that better than anyone. The third fight in their trilogy went the full 10 rounds, and by the end, Gatti was operating on pure will rather than any physical reserve his corner had helped him protect. A great corner manages a fighter's energy like a resource. Gotti's treated it like it was unlimited. Lying about the scorecards. Paulie Malignaggi was a skilled boxer with fast hands and a sharp boxing mind. But against Ricky Hatton in 2008, he was in with a fighter who was physically overwhelming him every round. Hatton was backing him into corners, roughing him up on the inside, and wearing him down systematically. Malignaggi's corner kept telling him he was in the fight, that he was competitive, that he just needed to keep doing what he was doing. None of it was true. He was being broken down round by round, and his corner was feeding him false confidence instead of a real plan. Hatton stopped him in round 11. By that point, Malignaggi had been knocked down twice and was barely able to defend himself, the direct result of a corner that spent 10 rounds telling him everything was fine. Andre Ward and Sergey Kovalev fought one of the most contested fights of 2016, and the scorecard situation cut the other way. Many rounds were close enough to score either direction, but Kovalev's corner kept telling him he was winning convincingly. That confidence made him passive in the late rounds when he needed to take over and force the issue. Instead of pushing harder, he coasted, trusting a lead his corner assured him he had. Rounds 10, 11, and 12 all went to Ward on at least 2 of the 3 scorecards, exactly the stretch where Kovalev's corner had told him he could afford to cruise. Ward took those late rounds, the judges scored it for Ward, and Kovalev walked out having lost a fight he might have won with more urgency down the stretch.
Just win the round.
Meldrick Taylor was ahead on all 3 scorecards going into the final round against Julio Cesar Chavez in 1990. He needed to survive 2 minutes and 12 seconds to win the fight. His corner never told him that. They never said hold, clinch, grab, tie him up, do whatever it takes to hear the final bell. Taylor fought the last round the same way he fought every other round. Got dropped by a right hand with 2 seconds left, and referee Richard Steele stopped the fight before the count was finished. Taylor lost a fight he had won for 35 minutes because nobody in his corner told him the only thing that mattered. Harold Graham never should have been in danger against Julian Jackson in 1990. Through 3 rounds, Graham was winning every round. Jackson's left eye was swelling shut from the punishment Graham had been landing all night. At the end of round 3, the ringside doctor told Jackson's corner that he had 1 more round or the fight would be stopped. Graham had the fight won and didn't know it. Instead of staying disciplined and letting the doctor finish it, he went in for the knockout in round 4 and walked into a single right-hand counter that put him on the canvas unconscious. His corner never told him the fight was already his. They never said, protect the lead, stay on the outside, let Jackson's eye do the work. 1 punch erased everything Graham had built because his corner never gave him the only instruction that mattered.
Jump up and wait.
Roy Jones Jr. was arguably the best pound-for-pound fighter on the planet when he decided to move up to heavyweight and challenge John Ruiz for the WBA title in 2003. His team signed off on it without hesitation. Jones won the fight and made history, but the damage from absorbing heavyweight shots at a naturally smaller frame was immediate and irreversible. When he came back down to light heavyweight, he was a different fighter. His chin was gone. The hand speed that made him untouchable for over a decade never fully came back. Antonio Tarver knocked him out cold the very next year, a finish that would have been unthinkable against the version of Jones that existed before the Ruiz fight. A decision his team should have protected him from effectively ended the best version of his career. Kell Brook was an undefeated world champion at 147 pounds when his team took the fight against Gennady Golovkin in 2016. Golovkin was the most feared puncher in boxing, operating at 160 pounds, a full 13 pounds above Brook's natural weight. Brook's corner agreed to it anyway. He showed genuine heart and lasted into round 5 before his corner stopped it, but the damage went beyond that one night. Brook could never properly make 147 again after absorbing Golovkin's power. He moved up permanently, lost his identity as a welterweight, and spent the rest of his career trying to find footing in a division where he didn't belong. His team handed Golovkin the tools to dismantle him before the first bell ever rang.
Drop weight.
Sometimes dropping weight can be worse than going up a weight class. Antoine Akins collapsed during his weight cut in 2016 and died shortly after. His camp pushed him through an extreme cut that his body could not survive. It was the most catastrophic possible outcome of a corner prioritizing a weight class over a fighter's life. But it was not an isolated failure of judgment. Extreme weight cuts happen constantly at every level of the sport, and camps continue to greenlight them because the short-term competitive advantage feels worth the risk, till it isn't. Danny Garcia fought Lamont Peterson in 2013, and the result was decided before either man threw a punch. Peterson came in visibly drained and physically flat, the direct result of a punishing weight cut that left him with nothing on fight night. His legs were gone, his output was low, and he had none of the sharpness that made him a dangerous fighter at his best. Garcia stopped him in the 8th round. Peterson's corner had put him through a process that guaranteed he would show up compromised, regardless of how well he prepared for the fight itself. Magomed Abdusalamov entered his fight in 2013 already weakened after a brutal cut. He took significant punishment throughout the fight, suffered a massive stroke afterward, and was left with permanent brain damage. His team's decision to push him through that cut didn't just cost him the fight, it cost him everything that came after. A corner's responsibility doesn't end at the final bell, and it doesn't begin at the opening bell either. It starts the moment a weight cut becomes dangerous, and nobody says stop. Keep fighting. Gerald McClellan was one of the most feared punchers in boxing when he fought Nigel Benn in 1995. He was hurting badly by the middle rounds, complaining to his corner of severe headaches between rounds. His corner sent him back out anyway. McClellan was eventually stopped, collapsed in the ring shortly after, and was rushed to the hospital for emergency brain surgery. He survived, but sustained catastrophic and permanent neurological damage. He has required full-time care ever since. His corner heard him say he wanted to quit, had the information they needed to make the right call, and sent him out anyway. Pritchard Colon showed visible signs of neurological distress during his fight with Terrell Williams in 2015. Between rounds, he was struggling to communicate clearly, and his behavior in the corner was not normal. His corner kept sending him out. Colon collapsed after the final bell, was taken to the hospital with a traumatic brain injury, and has required full-time care ever since. Signs were there during the fight. They were visible enough that people watching at ringside noticed. His corner either missed them or ignored them, and Colon has spent every day since paying the price for that decision. Both of these cases ended careers and destroyed lives. Uncreative advice. Adrian Broner came into his fight with Marcos Maidana in 2013 as a heavy favorite. He was fast, skilled, and had looked dominant in every fight leading up to it. His corner's plan was to outbox Maidana and let Broner's speed do the work. The problem was that Maidana was physically manhandling him from the opening round. He was walking through Broner's shots, backing him into corners, and taking over with sheer force. Broner's corner never adjusted. Kept telling him to outbox a fighter who was making outboxing impossible, and kept encouraging the showboating even as Maidana was winning round after round. Broner lost a unanimous decision in one of the bigger upsets of that year. Gassiev's corner had one answer for Usyk in 2018, and they gave it every single round, regardless of what was happening in the fight. Usyk's entire game was built around angles, footwork, and making opponents uncomfortable with constant directional changes. There was no adjustment for the angles, no instruction to cut off the ring differently, no answer for what Usyk was doing. Gassiev walked straight forward into the same traps round after round, getting picked apart every time he tried to close the distance. Usyk won every round of the fight on his way to a unanimous decision. A world-class fighter with genuine power got systematically dismantled because his corner brought the same instruction to every round of a fight that demanded something different.